the super majority leader, not only the majority leader, the super majority leader of the House of Delegates in Virginia, Republican from Colonial Heights, Kirk Cox. Mr. Leader, great to have you.
John, it's great to be with you. Thanks for the nice introduction. I think I can only go downhill from here.
It's not easy being the super majority leader of Virginia. Hey, there's a lot going on, but I was really excited, Mr. Leader, about getting you on today because along with your colleague, also from your area, Steve Martin, and my good friend Senator John Cosgrove and others, you guys do a great job in conducting telephone town hall meetings. I talked to Steve Martin the other day, and he had like 10,000 people on over 2 times, and it's just great to get that kind of feedback. I know that your staff was telling me that you just had your second telephone town hall session of the session. I'm sorry, if I could just get these words out. And what were some of the things that you covered on it and some of the feedback that you were getting from those who were on the call?
Well, it's got a great feature, John, called a polling feature, so I can ask them whatever question that I think might be relevant. So I asked them 9 in all, and they were everything from the Tebow bill, which you might have covered. I think a lot of people are familiar with the bill that actually passed the Senate. Should homeschoolers be able to play high school sports? 80-20, yes.
Right.
On that particular question. Year-round schools, should we do those for targeted low-performing schools? 60-40, yes, a little bit closer. Obviously coal and coal mining have become very big down here with the EPA Clean Power Act that basically would really hurt coal mining. So I asked if this was interesting. Do you support the mining of use of coal, et cetera? 96% yes, 4% no. That one was sort of off the charts.
Wow.
You talked a lot about ethics on your show, and so I tried to recap the House ethics package, which was a $100 gift cap for tangible and intangible. It also requires us to put our reports online. One thing I also think is very good, it prohibits the governor from accepting campaign contributions from companies seeking grants for that governor's opportunity fund. And so it does a lot of things of that nature. And I asked them, do you think that goes far enough? Do you think it almost goes far enough, more work is necessary? And then it did not go far enough. And I got 20% did not go far enough. 46% reforms are almost enough, but more work is necessary. And 33% reforms are enough. So it just really helps me because I can sort of, explain what we're trying to do, what my position is, and what are you thinking? What do you think about these particular issues? So they immediately tabulate the results for you, so it's a great tool for us.
Well, not only that, but it really gives your constituents, those on your phone call, an opportunity to find out not only what's going on, but to be able to weigh in on it so you feel like you're involved in the process. One of the complaints that we get from so many of the callers into our show around the state of Virginia is they feel disenfranchised. Like really at the end of the day, what they say or think doesn't seem to matter. And I think when you have these kind of things, it does. I want to get to ethics. I know that's an everyday thing on our show, but almost everybody that we talk to on our show week in and week out says, look, Virginia's the Wild West. We have to do something about ethics. And so Governor McAuliffe, when he was on our show a week ago, he said $100 is fine, but if you don't have an oversight committee, we're just kind of back to the same thing. It's a tiger without a growl. How do you stand on that?
Well, I disagree on that point. There is an oversight committee within the bill, and it would allow, if, for example, the oversight committee would do things like, I don't think you should be traveling on the taxpayer's dime hardly ever. Now, maybe if you're going to something that's exclusively legislative. I mean, I did go to a conference strictly on higher education that I actually used to do 2 bills. But I go almost nothing anymore. But this, for example, this ethics commission would pre-approve your travel. And so if it was more of a junket, they're going to say no. Here's my problem with giving an ethics panel subpoena power. Because what happened is we're sort of in the got you politics era. And let's face it, elections have become more and more bitter and partisan. So my fear would be that you would constantly have people referring these matters to an ethics panel. And frankly, whether you're totally innocent or not, if you're running for election, you'd be fighting those charges all the time. And I think you get a lot of got you type of inquiries. So that really is a big fear of mine. In that, who would be, on that panel, I think would be key. If you have one or two people that really, sort of are very partisan on that panel, then I think they would accept that inquiry, might even do a little bit of investigation. I don't think we want to go there because then I think people are going to see that as an avenue to bring someone down. So there is a mechanism within statute that if you, and obviously it happened with a legislator down your way, that if you do commit a crime or you do violate whatever, there is a process to do that, but I think it's a little bit more thoughtful process. And basically, this legislation calls for a Class 6 felony if you willfully mislead on your forms, et cetera. So I do think it has the proper teeth, but it's a good area to argue. There's no question about that.
Well, look, that's a very convincing argument. See, now I know why you were such an effective high school baseball coach back in the day. And I'm not saying that you've convinced me to your side, but it's certainly given me room for thought because you're right. I hadn't really considered that, and you're right because it could be utilized for political purposes, and I've seen that, and I can see how that would happen. So, okay, that makes sense. I'm going to think that one through. You haven't taken me 100% off it, but it's that would be that type of a thing that you just said would definitely be keeping me up at night. Okay, the governor has said, good news, announcing that revenues are up from what we thought they'd be. That's good for everybody. And now the question is, well, how's the money going to be spent? Are we going to put it in a rainy day fund or maybe a tax refund? What do you think?
Well, funny again, I tried to do a really creative question on my telephone town hall. I've never done this before. And the question was, recently Governor McAuliffe announced the revenue would increase by $136 million over what's being considered in the budget. How would the additional revenue money best be spent? And I try to give them some options that, frankly, have been thrown out there. I think the governor's thrown out there an additional teacher pay raise above the 1.5%. And then some of the things that you said. So very quickly, here are my options. Fund additional pay raise for teachers above 1.5% proposed in the budget. 27% said yes. Fully fund the Virginia retirement system. We only funded at 90%. 22%. And here's to your point. Prepay all 2017 payments to the rainy day fund, 41%. Increase pre-K slots, 3%. Increase the governor's opportunity fund, 7%. And so I would say if you sort of look, I think probably most people are telling us a lot of that money needs to be either be in the rainy day fund, needs to short VRS. You need to use that for one-time expenditures that does not build your base budget. So I think you will see us use the majority of that money for that type of thing. For example, if we want to build a capital project, we're going to use cash.
Right.
We're not going to use bonds. So I think that's what my constituents are saying. So I would prefer spending most of that money on one-time expenditures and to solve structural problems.
Makes sense. Mr. Leader, $16,000 college education in Virginia. I'm telling you, somebody could run for governor on that platform and win. How do we stand on that?
Well, you're right. I think the figure is there's $1 billion worth of student debt for Virginia students, $1 trillion nationally. The cost of tuition just keeps going up.
It's incredible.
I'm really trying to do a lot in that space. I've discussed on your show before trying to, basically cap student athletic fees, which have gone as high as $2,000 at one institution. Only 3% of students play in intercollegiate sports. I think we got to get that under control. Delegate Nick Rush has an interesting bill called a flat fee degree. And it's more than just guaranteeing tuition for 4 years. It's actually saying that, we're going to try to find a lower cost tuition. You don't get the amenities, but basically gives you your academics. Generally, it's going to be in a high demand field, a STEM field, et cetera. So what do the colleges get for doing that?
Mm-hmm.
We would actually give them credit for that in our funding formula, that if they would offer some of those degrees, we would help them out a little bit more as far as the funding formula goes. Encourage them to do some innovative stuff like that. But we've got a thing in the budget I like where we're incentivizing George Mason to come up with a nice online model, and I think that could be huge down the road. And so there's just a lot of things I think we're going to need to do as far as innovation goes. Because if we continue along this path, enrollment's going to be flat, and frankly, I think some of our college and universities are not going to be able to sustain themselves, and students just can't afford it.
Well, that's it. And actually, you mentioned the number $1 billion Virginia student loan debt. It's actually $1.1 billion, and of high means like myself in media, trying to send 3 kids to college, all of them coming out as we are with tremendous debt. And, I really think the status of your athletic fee bill, this thing has gotten out of control, no question. And I like the fact that you put it in because obviously you were a high school teacher, you were a high school baseball coach. I was as well. I coached at a high level. So we all understand, the fees. I went to college on playing baseball, so I understand it, but they're just out of control. And but the problem is you try to address it, and then everybody goes crazy over it because it's their favorite football team or whatever. So what's the status of that?
Well, the bill is in the Senate. I had 3 bills that all dealt in that area, and I think I was in front of the Senate subcommittee for an hour and a half, so we had a very vigorous discussion. They passed them with some qualifiers I didn't like. One is a reenactment clause, which means you'd have to reenact it next year. And so the bill will go into conference, and we'll try to iron out the differences. But I'm going to push really hard to get the reenactment clause stripped off. I think I've made the bill very reasonable. I've tried to look at various institutions, which are in a little bit different spot. I don't think in the bill, they're going to have to stretch, but I don't think there's anyone that can't get there. But they're going to have to start going to their alumni. They're going to have to start generating more earned revenue, ticket sales, et cetera. They've got to, if they want to truly go to that higher level, and some of them will probably admit it to you, they've got to start generating more revenue. One of the things that really disturbs me, generated revenue is going down and student fees are going up, and we should be going in the opposite direction. And so, I think it's going to have a real effect. So I'm hoping I can get it passed this year. I want to start right now. I'm impatient. I don't want to wait a year.
You're spot on with that, and hopefully some of those amendments it'll get through, and at least we'll have something. The Mountain Valley Pipeline, big issue in Virginia. If we can have it, natural gas, without a doubt, way to go. Drops down the cost of energy for anybody. The other thing the pipeline does is it is going to open up the opportunity for new manufacturing jobs in Virginia because a company can come in, they can locate by the pipeline, tap into it, get the energy that they need, creates jobs, and you've got to get the natural gasoline transported somehow, truck, train, or a pipe 3 feet under the ground. What say you?
Well, I'm for it. You made a lot of the arguments. I mean, obviously it's about a $3.5 billion project, so it will bring not only a lot of construction jobs, but as you say, we're really behind in our infrastructure, especially as far as, the natural gas pipeline goes. It'll spur that I understand will come off into Hampton Roads. And so I think it will really spur economic development. As you know, the opposition is, and you get into some eminent domain issues, et cetera, is, obviously the pipeline is going to go through private land, et cetera. And I do think that, they need to be very careful. I think they're trying to do that. They're trying to look at, alternative sites when they can. But, you can shut down every energy project if you always take the attitude that, totally not in my backyard and and it just affects everyone. So I think if you look at, pipeline projects in the past, they've been engineered to go through mountainous terrain and, they've dealt before with caves and sinkholes and some of the problems you would have in, the Valley. So the safety record's pretty good. It's more than pretty good. It's very good. So I'm very supportive.
What is your top priority this week?
Well, it's getting my athletic fee bill passed. My second top priority is getting the budget done. We were up here last night to about 10:30 negotiating the budget with the Senate. And what I would like to see the most come out of that budget is to make sure that, as I've said, I think I want to see all capital projects paid with cash. I want to see us short VRS. There's one group that I think we really do need to particularly focus on raises. That's our state police. They're really falling behind.
Right.
The budget has some nice enhancements for them because they have really suffered over the last few years. So government does have a role in the right place, and I think our state police particularly need some support and help.
That's going to be the final word. For more information, it's real easy. Go to kirkcox.com, KARKCOX, kirkcox.com.